long as we eat lunch, I'm happy. All right, lesson 1 of chapter 4. What are some plant life cycles? So it says it looks like the flower is providing food for this bee in the picture, but what is the bee providing for the plant? So let's look at a short video about a dandelion. And you've got 2 pictures on page 185. So it says, the field starts out with a single dandelion, so just one. But over time, the field is filled with yellow dandelions. Think about how this happened. So let's watch our video. Okay. So the question on this page, and this is just for you to think about, we're not going to really talk about the specific answer because this is just kind of an introduction to this chapter, meaning we're going to cover a lot more for this question. It says, thinking about the dandelions, so in the video we just saw, how did the field end up with so many flowers? So on page 185, you've got all of those lines. Thinking about that video, how did the field start with 1 and end up with, 10, 20, however many dandelions? How do you think that happened? Based off what you know and what the video showed you, what is your prediction? What is your inference? How did that happen? Write at least 2 sentences. How do you think that happened? We didn't see a bunch of people gardening every day to add more, so it wasn't the people. How do you think we got more of those dandelions? What are your thoughts? How did we get so many at the end of that video? A few more seconds and we're going to turn the page. All right. Excuse me. Thank you. All right, let's go to page 186, looking at the stages. So, seeds on the go. Living things experience what we call a life cycle, which means changes that happen in order from the beginning of their lives to the time that they die. Plants have life cycles with certain stages, and we are going to learn about these stages in just a moment. But we as people also go through a life cycle. When you're born, you're not born an adult. You're born a baby. And then every year you get bigger, and then you're a toddler, then a child, then a teenager, then a young adult, then an adult. You know, all of us, we also go through a life cycle as well. So if it's living, if it's breathing, if it needs food and shelter, if it's alive, it goes through a life cycle. So your page, it shows you the pictures. I've got a little bit more interactive. So the dandelions in this picture are going through different stages of the life cycle. So let's look at the different ones. Now, these aren't in order, but they're just a different life cycle. So let's see. We've got one called reproduction, and that's also on your page on 186. So that's when the flower produces seeds and a strong wind can blow the seeds off. We've got the seed, which begins the life cycle of a plant. So if it begins the life cycle, that means it's the first thing that happens. Then we have what's called germination. No, it does not have to do with real germs. So during this period, during germination, the dandelion sprouts from a seed. So it starts to grow. The adult stage, it becomes an adult plant and begins to develop a flower. We've got the young adult phase, so it's growing into after it's been germinated. And then death, you know, it may reproduce many times. At the end of its cycle, the plant dies. So now that we have learned the different stages, let's try to put them in order. So on your page, this is question 2 up at the top. It's in those circles. So the first one they give us, which is the seed, and then we have 5 other cycles. So after it becomes a seed, what do you think the next step in the life cycle would be? Giselle? Not just yet, but it is a part. Valentina? Germination is the second one. So to the right, so you see how the arrows go in a circle. So looking at the picture, they give you the first one, the seed. So then you would write the word germination in the next bubble, or the circle, whatever you want to call it. So it's a seed, then the seed sprouts. What step comes after it germinates? Anelli? It is a young adult. It is a teenager. So it starts to form a flower. After young adult would be, Marco? It would be an adult. That kind of makes sense. You start young, then you get older. Once it's an adult, Anelli? What letter does it start with? Right, it reproduction. So it starts, it changes color and it looks a lot different. And then finally it ends in death. Like all living things do. So, seed, germinate, young adult, reproduction, and death. And that's the same thing for like animals. You know, they start as babies, then they get older, then they're adults, then they, make more children, like the mom or the female animals. So that's question 2. Double check, got them all right. So it says, with the right soil, water, and light, the dandelion seeds will germinate and the life cycle will start again. So, the last one, when the dandelion dies, those seeds do come off, and then we start the cycle all over again. So, let's see. So that gave a bit more of a better look at what the life cycle of a dandelion looks like. And then your question on the bottom for number 3, it says, does the flowering plant's life cycle always happen in the same order? So I have a fill in the blank, but yours is writing a sentence. So you can copy this down once we go through it together. The flowering plant life cycle, does it happen the same order or a different order every time? Diego? It always happens in the same order. And it must change or repeat for a plant to make seeds. What would best fit? Marco? Well, if we said that if it happens the same every time, then it's not going to change. Because it's a cycle, that means it happens in a circle. So for like a racetrack, like if you keep going in a circle, you're never going to leave that track. It's always going to keep happening. Same thing for a cycle, like a life cycle. It's always going to follow those same steps. It's never going to go out of order. It's going to keep on repeating itself. And I'm hoping on Wednesday, I got to go to Menards to grab some seeds, but I'm hoping that, we can start a plant life cycle in the classroom to get a better look at what the life cycle looks like. I'll see if I can grab dandelion ones, but I'm not sure if they have them out yet. That's my plan for Wednesday. We'll see if it happens. All right, and page 188. All right. We kept going. All right, so page 188 says producing more plants. So now we're talking about pollen. So pollen is the sticky yellow powder you see on a plant. Pollination occurs when pollen is moved from one plant to another. Pollinators are animals that move pollen, and pollen can also be moved in other ways. So we've got a picture here. It says when the bees land on a flower, the pollen sticks to the bee's leg or body, which you can see it's kind of, speckled with yellow. When the bee lands on other flowers, the pollen is moved to that new flower. All right. Oh. Got a couple other pictures. Hummingbirds get pollen on their beaks and faces, and they can then carry that pollen to other plants. Seeds need room to grow. So the birds will eat the seeds and then they release the seeds in their droppings. So when they go to the bathroom, as they move. Some seeds have wing-like shapes that allow them to travel when the wind blows. So if you've seen those before. And I'm sure we've all done it before when we pick a dandelion off the ground and you blow on them, maybe you make a wish. So those seeds of the dandelions, like they said in the video, they're similar to parachutes and it helps them travel in the wind. And then we got a picture of a tumbleweed. And it says, this tumbleweed is on the move. Its seeds may break away and new plants may germinate when the new seeds land. So we'll do the one question on the top, question 4 on page 189, then we'll stop here. It says, what are some ways that the seeds and pollen are carried from one place to another? It says, select all that apply. So let's talk through these together. Can seeds and pollen be carried from one place to another by the wind? Yes or no? Yes. Can it be carried from the roots of a plant? No, because that's underground. Can animals carry the seeds and pollen? Yes, whether they know it or not. Branches. Can branches carry things? No, because it's not moving anywhere. It's not that branch is going to stay on wherever the one spot is. Can water move seeds and pollen? It could. If it was like in a river or something and the river ends miles down the road, it could also transfer. So you can write those 3 examples down for question 4, and this is where we will stop today.